Real estate and TikTok. How could they possibly go together? We're going to find out with today's amazing guest, Julia Hurley.
Today's episode is brought to you by Canva. When we finally decided to grow our social media presence, Canva was the only option. I tried dozens of alternatives, but I had to admit that nothing else comes close. We use Canva for social images, print-on-demand designs, and tons more at ServeNoMaster. Grab a free account today at servenomaster.com/Canva.
Are you tired of dealing with your boss? Do you feel underpaid and underappreciated? If you want to make it online, fire your boss and start living your retirement dreams now, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to ServeNoMaster Podcast, where you'll learn how to open new revenue streams and make money while you sleep. Presented live from a tropical island in the South Pacific by best-selling author Jonathan Green. Now, here's your host.
Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Always a pleasure. Always.
Now, I've been excited to talk to you for a little while, ever since you came across my radar, because I'm always interested in people that are able to transition from two different worlds, because often real estate agents, let's be honest, are boring. It's always bus benches and fridge magnets nobody wants. And it's like the approach. And I remember one of my friends from high school, he kept trying, but he was one of those guys that had a new job every 3 months. And for while he was a real estate agent, he's like, nobody will hire me. I was like, yeah, you're 21. It's so hard. And he was like, one of his ideas, he's like, what if I wrap a flyer around a brick and throw it through the window of every house that's for sale? I was like, it's a good idea. They're definitely going to know who you are. Like, it's definitely going to get you attention. So we're on the right direction, but not a real estate agent anymore, surprisingly. But I would love to know, what's most important to me is, how did you first get interested in real estate? And then just tell me a little about your journey. I want to get to know Julia.
Well, the real estate was forced on me. I got to be honest with you. So I had a mentor. He passed away, but he was adamant that I get into real estate. And I personally equated, and still do, especially with 90% of the agents not being trained properly in the country, right? The National Association of Realtors just says, here, we'll give you a real estate license because we just want your money. They could not care less if these agents know what they're doing or not. They really do not care. But it is a requirement that you pay them a fee. So that's how real estate agents get into it, thinking it's easy money, and that's how the National Association of Realtors makes money. So that's a very interesting dynamic there. So I equated real estate agents with used car salesmen or worse. And I actually have a lot of friends who own used car lots, and they do better business than real estate agents most of the time. So my mentor was adamant on it. He's like, you really need to get your real estate license. 2 years went by. I was like, I'm not doing this. This is not a career for me. This is not a good fit for me. I'm not a salesperson. I really don't enjoy large crowds of people or staying out past my bedtime to network and just not who I am. So he eventually says, I'll list all my properties with you that I have that are open, and I'll pay for your real estate license. And if you hate it after a year, I'll never talk about it again. So I was like, well, obviously you really think that I need to do this. It's somebody whose opinion mattered a lot. So I did exactly what they asked me to do. Within a year, I had sold about $2 million within my first year, which is extremely difficult. $2 million sounds like a lot of easy money, especially since home prices today are what they are. But in my market, Knoxville, Tennessee, back then, the average market value was about $175,000. And we were just coming out of the '08 crash. So nobody was buying houses, right? Nobody was buying houses, but everybody wanted to sell them. So I came out of there with $2 million my first year in sales, which was extremely difficult to pull off. And I thought, well, you know what? Maybe I can do this. In the second year, I hit about $6 million. In the third year, I hit about $12 million. In the fourth, and it just kept going and kept going. So I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense now. And then I got into learning how to actually invest in my own real estate and represent investors, and started dabbling in commercial real estate and starting to follow that. And I'm in it almost a decade, and I still don't know what I don't know, but I have learned a lot about real estate, and I've coached it all over the country and have been very blessed to meet a lot of amazing people, and also learn the conversation of connecting those dots, I guess you could say, between consumer and realtor, like explaining that whole situation.
Let's get to the good stuff. Let's talk about what most realtors are doing that's a real stinker. Let's talk about the things they do that we often don't think about, because realtors only make money if they close a deal. And I know that there's certain things, like once a house has been on the market a certain amount of time, it's like the kiss of death, right? Whether it's 30 days, 90, in different markets, I know it's amount of time, right? And they're like, you got to get this house off our books, right? Like you got to do whatever it takes to make this house disappear. And I remember like when my family moved to Tennessee, we moved to Nashville when I was 10 from LA, and one of the houses they showed us had been flood damaged. And I'm talking biblical. And they were like, "Miss, this is a fixer-upper." And I was like, "Is that the right word to use here? I could smell the house from the road." They're like, "It's got an amazing yard." And I was like, "Yeah, because the yard survived the flood. The rest," and it was like, and that they would just show whenever they're trying to get rid of it. Obviously, the flood house is going to be hard to get rid of. It's hard to get rid of a murder house or a flood house or a haunted house. Let's be honest, right? I feel like, you know, and we're going to ask about that in a minute because I know you've probably sold some, but that's the thing is that they're trying to get rid of it. And then the second they make the deal, right? And the deal is like the more you pay for the house, the more the realtor makes, right? Like the realtor makes, I believe, 6% or maybe it's 3 and 3, right? So if I do a higher bid,
no, but it's a good guess. Everybody makes that guess. That's a great guess.
Oh, it's not. You don't get more money if I bid more?
We don't get 6%. I don't know when the last time anybody's bothered to buy or sell a piece of real estate and actually follow what's going on in this market. But number one, 6%, there's no industry standard. I mean, that's illegal. You can't price fix. So that's considered a monopoly. You're not allowed to do it. Everything's negotiable. The sellers negotiate the commission price with their listing agent. So that's negotiable. Most of what we're seeing right now in this market, especially after COVID, is about 4.5%. So everybody's out here going, my real estate agent makes millions of dollars. They're getting paid 6%. No, they're not. They're really not. Now, that doesn't excuse bad service, but they're really not getting paid what everybody thinks they're getting paid. Not even close.
So let's say it's 4%. That's fine. I learned something new today. 6% is what they say. That's what they say on $1 Million Real Estate. So
of course they do, because that $1 million real estate, Ryan wants you to pay him 6 to 10%. He's in New York. He's selling $30 million condos. I'd want 6% too. I'm going to argue that too. I'm like, I'm the $1 million real estate guy. My services are worth 15%. If you don't want to work with me, go work with a crappy real estate agent. But if I were the crappy real estate agent, I'd say, hey, listen, I'm just getting my start in this and I have time to focus on only you. Unlike this guy, he has too many clients and he's charging you too much. I'll charge you less and dedicate all of my time on you. So there's a script for everything. If you know how to use it, you can make money. That's pretty much the easiest part to explain.
Okay. I love that. I learned something again. So we're talking about kind of the things that I'm familiar with is like when a real estate agent is like just trying to close a house or just trying to get me to take anything so they make a commission. And then also okay, you bought a house. See ya. You're never going to hear from me again unless you get divorced and then let me know I'll sell your house, right? Like it feels like there's...
Well, so I'll interrupt you there. 2 things. You hired the wrong real estate agent. That's your fault. Consumers want to blame the real estate agent. That's a shitty real estate agent. You hired him. Did you actually interview 3 agents? Did you actually take the time to hire the right person for you? Or did you just Google it and expect A+ service for negative dollars? Because honestly, this is still a business. You're not going to go, let's just say, for example, you were to get a divorce. And that's unfortunate because that's a lot of people and it's a tough situation to be in. Are you literally going to Google the very first name that pops up for divorce attorney and just pay them whatever they ask you to and do whatever they tell you to do? And then when it doesn't go your way because you didn't research, and then expect them to follow up with you for years after the fact and carry on a relationship? Why is that an expectation of real estate agent? What is that expectation? That's the consumer's expectation. At the end of the day, the consumer has the responsibility to research real estate agents and ask about their services. And that's important. Just because they're a real estate agent doesn't mean they've been trained. It doesn't mean they have experience. It doesn't mean they understand the contracts they're writing on. And if they're so desperate to close the deal with you because they need a commission check, you've hired the wrong agent. You've hired the wrong agent. They're so hungry, they can't look past what you need to get where you need to go. So that's a consumer problem, right? And then the expectation of, I never hear from them again. Why would you? What is your expectation on that? Does your doctor call you on the weekends and be like, hey, Frank, thanks so much for coming in for your prostate exam. Just wanted to be your friend, buddy. How's it going? No, you don't expect that from your doctor. You don't expect it from your lawyer. You don't expect it from your grocer. You don't expect it from anybody except real estate agents. So you're pissed when they don't want to be your friend, but you hired them for a business. So you either want them to be your friend or you want them to be your protector in business. Which one do you want?
So let's talk about that. What are the right things to look for when you're interviewing real estate agents? Because this is interesting. Yeah. My experience, and again, where I live, it's totally different. I live in a different country. I don't live in America anymore, so it's totally different here. But what are the right things? My experience is usually you hire like either a referral or a friend of a friend. I very rarely hear about people. I don't think I've ever heard about someone who's like, oh, I interviewed 5 real estate agents to find the best one. People don't approach it that way. And you're right. People do want to, I don't know. I also think you want to be friends with whoever sold you your car sometimes. But it's like, oh, why didn't the car dealer send me a Christmas card, right? And my dentist, he sends me a postcard every 6 months to remind me I need to come back in. It feels like a special reminder.
But that's the service that you pay for every 6 months. Do you want to pay your real estate agent every 6 months to send you a card?
That's interesting.
I mean, it's the same concept, right? Oh, my dentist reminds me to come in and pay him $300 more. Okay, well, I'll send you a Christmas card at 39 cents for that stamp, because that's what I get it for in bulk. So I'll send you 39 cents for $300 every 6 months. I'll exchange that all day long.
Okay. I like it. So it's like paying to be, you can pay your real estate agent to be like, I'll pay you $100 a year retainer. You just send me a card every month. That's a pretty good deal. I like it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a service. I'll be your friend, but you're going to pay for it. I like that. I love it. So what are the right kind of questions, or what, actually forget that. What are the dumbest questions people have asked you when they're thinking about working with you? Let's get to the good stuff.
I don't think any question's dumb. I just think it's unfortunate. They do no research. A lot of people just absolutely do zero research. And that does concern me for their future investment participation, political elections. I'm like, so do you do this much research on your kids' schools, on the car you're going to buy, on insurance? Like, is there any space where you're providing yourself the knowledge that you need before you pick up the phone? And that concerns me. So it's sometimes it's just hey, I want to buy some land. That's what I get. Okay, great. Tell me about what you want to buy. Okay, they'll tell me everything under the sun except any of the research they did. Like, hey, I want 5 to 10 acres. And then here's my favorite one. Well, I don't want to be too far out of town. I want amenities. I want to be close to a grocery store, maybe a Starbucks. I guess if it's the perfect property, I could maybe spend more. Yet that entire conversation, they've told me nothing about their research on their financing. Have they approached a bank or a lender? They've done research on the area they're asking me about. They literally just pick up the phone to have a conversation like I'm free all day long, like their best friend to chat with, instead of approaching it like a respectful business.
Yeah. What I've seen, and again, my experience is limited, of course, is that some people are just like, show me 50 houses. I'll let you know if I like one. And that's a huge amount of time, right? Like, oh, you spend 3 days and you have to drive them around. They have to ride around in the car with you. And then you show all these houses and you're hoping something hits. And it seems to me, at least most of the time, people say one thing and then they end up going for something completely different. I want a house on the west side. They go to the east side.
Right.
I want a house. I don't want a 1-story house. They get a 2-story house. I'll never forget when my parents split up. My dad moved into it in their 60s. My dad got a 3-story house. My mom got a 2-story house. I was like, what is wrong with you guys? You're falling down. It's falling downstairs. And my mom definitely had a massive fall down her stairs. And her bedroom was upstairs and she's obstinate about it. I'm like, why at this phase in your life did you guys both get houses that are hard? Like, you've added extra layers of difficulty and they live 1 block away from each other. Like, they did not even move that far apart. I was like, I thought you guys were trying to get away from each other. So people, they never do what they say they're going to do. It's like they don't know what they want. And this is something when I write a book for a client, I can't tell you how many times they approve the outline, they approve the rough draft. We write the entire book together. They read the rough draft. They go, you know what? I want to write a completely different book. I'm like, yeah, that's great. You're paying again. They're like, only after reading what we've spent 6 months writing together did I realize I want something completely different.
Right. Except the difference is you got paid on your 6 months of work. A real estate agent doesn't. And so now we're still in that same conversation of, you've got 2 things going on here. You've got a consumer that has absolutely no idea what they want, and they just want somebody to, I'm going to say this in all fairness, just treat like shit. They want somebody to do whatever they want them to do when they want them to do it. End of story. They want control. That's number 1. The second part of that, number 2, is that you've got an agent willing to do it because they just got their real estate license and had absolutely zero conversation with anybody about how hard this industry actually is to survive in. So you've got an agent willing to do all the work that doesn't need to be done, and a consumer willing to take advantage of that person. So right then is the perfect storm. So every real estate agent after that, this consumer is going to expect that. And that is an expectation that if the National Association of Realtors wanted to actually keep good real estate agents going in this market and train the new ones, and I'm not going to say bad ones because new ones don't mean bad, it just means new, they would actually conduct themselves like they own a business. So this is how much I get paid an hour. This is how much your price point is. This is how much potential commission I could earn. This is how many hours that is going to get me to a break-even point. We need to pare down your wants and needs and treat this like a respectful business. Otherwise, you need to pay me more.
Yeah, I'm wondering why real estate agents don't just ask for a retainer. Now,
we're not allowed to.
Oh, really? Learn something new every day.
So again, people think real estate agents own their own companies. We do not own our own company. We are 1099 employees of a brokerage. The broker can tell you what you can and cannot do. You must run your 1099 employment contract however the broker sees fit. And if that broker doesn't want to charge a retainer fee or allow for retainer fees to be charged, then that's what you do. That's where you go. That's where you hold your license. Again, the National Association of Realtors has made this such a pyramid racket scheme where that everyone thinks that every single person is out for themselves. Really and truly, they're working under the authority and control of a broker and brokerage. They cannot become their own broker until they've been licensed for 3 consecutive years. So they have no control over the way their business is truly ran.
In 2008, a lot of people I knew lost their jobs and they all became realtors.
Yeah.
And in 2020, a lot of people lost their jobs and they all became coaches.
Yep.
What I noticed was in both cases, people think it's easy. Having been in my industry, like people think writing book, like ghostwriting is easy or coaching is easy. It's hard.
Yeah.
People only think it's easy because there's a large payment up front. Like when someone pays me, it feels really good. But there's a long trail between the first meeting and like I keep waiting for that wire transfer to appear. And there's a huge amount of work on delivery because you're spending a lot of time with that person. And it's only because of this perception, right? Oh, it's really easy to be a real estate agent. But it's not. It's just not.
There's nothing easy about it. How long did you have to go to school to be able to? Let me just ask you this because I'm currently writing a book myself, so I understand. I've been writing this book for a year, and it's actually my life's story, so I understand it better than anybody. And I have zero skills in writing. Right? I went to college. Woohoo! Big deal. That doesn't make me a writer. And people spend decades of their lives going through class after class, master class, and then different genres and understanding all kinds of, it is a difficult, specialized service that you provide. But real estate agents can go get their real estate license in 3 weeks. Of course they think it's easy because obtaining the license is easy because the National Association of Realtors wants their money. They could not care less if the perception of their industry is proper or not, because they don't make them put in the hours and years of work. For example, if you want to be an appraiser in the state of Tennessee, you have to do a 2-year apprenticeship under a master appraiser to be able to appraise properties. That's 2 years basically of free work as an apprentice. But as a real estate agent, you can go to any real estate school in 3 weeks and get a license. You can't tell me that we're respected as a profession when our own industry doesn't treat its licensing like a profession.
It's very interesting because there's this, and this happens with a lot of industries. There's like the perception that comes from media, right? Like so often on every sitcom, when they're like season 6, like, oh, the mom needs a job. It's always realtor.
Yep.
And it's always like that jacket and this thing. And then there is this big disconnect. And I can tell you that in my industry, it's the same thing. Every once in a while, I get someone who thinks my time is worth like $3 an hour. And they come in with a number and I'm like, well, that's less than 1% of what the last client paid. And they're always, no matter what industry, there's always people that don't understand what goes into it, or they think it's really easy. I'm like, if it was easy, you'd have already finished your own book. And it's fun. Some people do. I have some clients come to me, I'm like, this book is already good. You don't need me. I don't like when that happens, but it happens. But there is this, I'm sure it happens to you. People are like, oh, I know what I want. Here's the house I want. You just realtor it, whatever. But they don't understand. Like people misperceive. And maybe it changes every 10 years when people jump into a different industry. But it also means it's flooded with unqualified people. And coaching right now has a really, really bad.
Oh my God. It's so embarrassing.
And it should have it.
The day interest rates, you could not have pegged it. I called it. I have TikTok videos from 2 years ago that said this is exactly what's going to happen. You could not have scripted this any easier if you just would understand the situation. The day interest rates went up to 6%, overnight I started seeing, I'm a real estate coach. Get 100 listings with me. Hire me to teach you as a realtor. So it's like realtor to realtor because they couldn't get their own business. So then they realized, well, realtors are the business. So I'm just going to turn all of my advertising in my 5 houses that I sold during COVID, that I'm going to turn that into a coaching program. And some realtor out there is going to pay me for it. And then I'm just going to blow it all up on TikTok and Instagram paid ads. So, hey, realtors, hire me. I'm a real estate coach, because interest rates went to 6%. And then all of a sudden people were like, are you really going to negotiate me that best deal? Do you have the negotiation skills to get me a lower price or to get me all the repairs? When agents had to start working, they stopped working and started pitching themselves as coaches. It was literally an overnight. Flip the switch.
That's so funny because Yeah. When the lockdown started, everyone changed their LinkedIn profile to say coach. And I was like, look, I've been doing this for full time for 13 years this month, 13 years in this business. And I take on so few coaching clients because guess what? Coaching clients are a nightmare. They never do what you tell them to do. And then they blame you for stuff they did.
Yeah.
And I do so few because of that, right? And even now, and I've written over 300 bestsellers, and I think I have 4 book coaching clients I've taken over the last 5 years. I take so few, and I'm really good at it because it's a massive investment. It's very unless you don't really care. I guess if you totally don't care if the person succeeds or not, it's not as bad. But I get very invested. I send follow-up messages. I'm always trying to make them succeed. But there are so many people that think coaching is easy because you get paid up front. And that's the difference when you're actually doing real estate, right? You get paid only when the deal closes, whereas a coach can go, oh, I can get paid even if the deal doesn't close. And so it has that appeal, except for you still have to deliver on it. And that's the challenge that a lot of people are missing. And people do jump around as it's so easy to change your LinkedIn profile. And you brought up something that's interesting to me. I kind of want to dive into is that you've been really successful on TikTok, which so many people jump on a TikTok. Can't tell how many people send me a link to their TikTok. I got 57 followers. I'm like, it's better if you didn't tell me. Like, you should have kept it a secret. And just don't tell me. Like,
you're right.
It's better to not know. It's like the people the first day of college, like, oh, I had no friends in high school. I'm like, you could have kept it a secret. Nobody would have known. This is your chance. College is where you get to reinvent yourself, but not if you keep the same profiles. So I'd love to know about how you started doing that kind of transition and kind of how you brought that energy, because a lot of people, like we talked about at the beginning, have a really droll perception of real estate or think that like a realtor is someone that either you want to be best friends with or they're just going to rip you off and you're trying to get them in and out of your life as quickly as possible. And as you've mentioned, that so many people jump into the market without any understanding of the challenges and the trials and tribulations of it, because it sounds easy from the outside. Like any career, if it was easy, everyone would do it and then it would stop being easy. Like that's like how you know. Whenever I see like something where they're like, oh, get paid to do surveys, I'm like, guess what? If you could get paid to surveys, everyone would do it. Then they would stop paying as much money. Because I never had anyone come.
It's not that people don't understand that concept. I just think that I don't remember what the study was. So I'm going to reference it, but don't remember it. It was the whole politics thing somebody was doing. And it was like a massive poll of every congressman is sucky, but my congressman, because I know them. And I'm like, yeah, but your congressman's also the problem. No, I know them. I would never make a bad decision. I would never vote wrong, but my neighbor definitely voted wrong. Oh, okay, but you guys live in the same neighborhood and make the same income, drive the same cars, your kids go to the same schools, so you guys make the same decisions, right? No, I would never make a bad decision. Oh, okay, cool. So it's that whole perception of I know better than everybody else. Well, if we actually go by the facts, it's 10,000 hours or 10 years to become an expert in something. That's 10,000 hours of your time. And it's not 10,000 hours studying it. It's 10,000 hours actually doing it. So when I say I'm an expert in the real estate market, I'm a friggin' expert. I got 10,000 hours of time put into this. Sweat, blood, and tears, all of it. Every agent out there thinks they're an expert after they've written 2 contracts. You don't even know what the contracts mean, let alone understand it. But they're out here trying to do it. And they've convinced themselves they can do it after they've sold their cousin's house and their mom's house. And all of a sudden, nobody's calling them. Nobody's picking up the phone. They don't know what to do. They start asking for help. And then all these fake coaches come out. Well, just buy my program and I'll coach you through it. What you should have had is 1, signed up with a brokerage that actually offers you classes to learn how to lead generate, learn how to manage your money. Maybe take a couple of business classes on how to run a P&L statement, how to manage your finances properly, because when you get that $10,000 check, you're going to screw up. Maybe know what to do with it. Maybe do a little more research on something. But most people say, no, I've got this. It was hard for her or hard for him because they don't know how to do it. I know how to do it. When in reality, 1% of the entire population of real estate agents actually makes money, actually runs a business. And that's the reality for everything. 1% of the world does a lot of the stuff most of the rest of everyone else thinks they do.
Yeah, there's this perception that it's like you hit it out of the park on the first try. Like people, I love when, this is one of my favorite things to bring up is I love when someone says someone's an overnight success. Like when they're like, this band just broke out and they're an overnight success. I'm like, it's their 6th album.
Like Eminem. How many albums did that guy have before he became popular? And everybody's like, I loved Eminem's first album. I'm like, you don't even know what Eminem's first album is.
It's almost every big band that blew up, all the bands I like, I watch their behind the musics now. I'm like, I just got into a new band today. I rarely find a new band. I got a new band this weekend. It popped up on my YouTube. I was like, oh, I like this song. And it's called, oh gosh. Oh, I think it's called Bring Me the Horizon or Beyond the Horizon. It's so bad. They have one song.
Oh, they were in the Triple J Top 100. They had 10 songs in the Top 100 this year.
Well, they've been around I think they formed in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like they've been, and that's also because I'm old. As you get older, you discover new bands and less. Like when I was in my 20s, I could name 500 DJs and bands I liked. Now, in the last 10 years, I've learned about 3 new bands. And it's just like, it just popped across my feed. I really liked it. And I very rarely, right? But that's the thing is that I can't be like, I'm an OG fan or I like the first album. But
let's stop right there and equate that to real estate. You just said when I was in my 20s, I could name 50 DJs, 50 bands, all the stuff that I loved and liked. And it was great. All of it was great. And as I've gotten older, you said maybe three to 5 new ones that I can remember that I like. So here's that exact same conversation equated to real estate. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. As you age, you get used to a certain kind of conversation, a certain kind of way of doing things, and you're more comfortable around things that you can equate yourself to liking. Same thing goes for real estate. These real estate agents out here are in their 20s. You can literally, they're everywhere. Oh, you see me everywhere. I'm so popular. Look at me. I'm so flashy. I'm this, I'm that. I'm so popular. And then as a consumer age, you only want to be around people and do things that you're comfortable with. So you're going to probably make the mistake of hiring your sister's cousin's brother, who's somebody you supposedly know or are comfortable with, instead of maybe listening to those other 50 interviews and making sure you hire the right person. And that's how we see ourselves getting into trouble. Oh, I hired my daughter-in-law. I wanted to help her out. Okay, this is a business transaction. You should have gone with the 50 conversations instead of the 3.
Yeah, I think that it's so bad to mix friendship or family and business. Like my wife comes with business ideas all the time. And I'm like, oh, that's a pyramid scheme. Don't do that one. Like all the time, right? And I'm like, look, she has my dream job. Everyone thinks I'm the smart one. My wife makes the exact same amount of money as me, lives in the same house, doesn't have a job. She's literally my hero. She outsmarted me. Absolutely. She lives in the same house. She goes to the gym every day for 3 hours, hangs out with the kids all day while I'm up here grinding. Guess what? I so admire her. She has a great life and it's fine. We have a great life together, but there's this perception that's completely wrong. And like, why would you want to switch it, right? You have something great going. We ran a business together for a while, okay? And she ran it totally. I just helped a little bit. And then we had our 4th child. And I'm like, 4 kids is a lot. It's okay. But a lot of people, they look at and think it's easy. And the secret is, at least for me, is that I work every day. I work 7 days a week and I've been doing it for 13 years. The secret is not being a genius. That helps, but so much of it, every time you look at all these tech billionaires, how many hours did they spend sleeping under their desk? At least I've never done that, but you ignore that.
I used to fall asleep at the kitchen table writing contracts. I'd wake up in a puddle of drool on my laptop when I first started. My first 2 years in real estate, I tell people this and they're like, oh, it's not like that. I'm like, it is exactly like that. And if you think you're any different, I promise that you're not. Anybody that is successful in real estate, I sell $20 million a year in a market where the average price point is $275,000. I bust my ass. End of story. I work really hard. The first 2 years, it was a 7-day work week, 15 to 16 hours a day of knocking on doors, going to breakfast, lunch, and dinner, standing outside of the school pickup drop-off line, handing out business cards to the moms coming in and out of the school, eating dinner in my car. You wanted a 10 o'clock phone call at night? I'm on it. I'll answer your phone call. I will do whatever I have to do. Now I get to choose my client. But those first 2 years, you choose nothing. You choose nothing if you're building a new business and you work. You work 7 days a week and you work until you get exactly what you need. After those 2 years, if you play it right, if you actually make the relationships last, if you actually keep track of every person you've ever bought and sold with, you've done the correct advertising, you've asked for those reviews, you've followed up properly, the business comes to you. But it takes 2 years of falling asleep at your desk, of working 80 hours a week to build a business. Any business. That's
the thing that I think causes a lot of people to fail, is that they go in thinking it's going to be easy. Like, I love when people think they buy a course from me and it's 10 hours of content. And they're like, how do I have 10 hours to do it? I'm like, you went to 4 years of college, spent $250,000, and you're complaining about 10 hours of time to learn something that works, right? And that's the hard part, is that to sell, right? To sell a program or to convince someone to do something, you got to make it sound easy, but then they actually have to do the hard thing. It's like the trick of the fajita. The fajita is just a loud burrito, but you pay more for it, right? Because it's got that attention. But that's the thing that separates people who succeed from those who don't. It's not luck. It's not genius. It's grind. And
it's consistent.
Like when I was 18, I went to every rave across the Southeast. I lived in Nashville. I was in Memphis, Atlanta, North Carolina, Myrtle Beach, just driving all over. I slept on wooden floors and in bathtubs all the time. I'm not doing that anymore. Like at my age, I can't do that, right? That's something you do at 18, not something you do at 40. Like now I'm like, wait, this is only a queen size bed? No pillow top? How am I going to sleep on that, right? Like it's totally shifts, but it's that beginning. And unfortunately, when we tell the hero story, every time we hear about this successful person, they never talk. Like when I started, I lived in my mom's basement for a year. Then I lived on my friend's couch in a studio apartment. I slept maybe 25 inches from his feet on a wicker couch, not a comfortable couch, a horrible wicker one, for another year and a half until I had enough money that I could rent an apartment. But no one talks about that. And that's really unfortunate because then you go in thinking it's going to be easy and it's not. And that's the problem with coaching real estate.
That's the problem. Nobody's going to believe you. That's the issue. People are sold the dream. They only buy into what they think is something that they want. So it's the same as real estate. I can come into this conversation and I will fire a client on the phone in a heartbeat. I'll be like, this is not a fit. Good luck to you. Best of luck. Find another realtor. I don't have time or patience for it. I'm 41. I've got 3 companies that I run and we have a family. I'm not having it. There are 100 questions I will ask you as a buyer. I am a good agent. I'm going to say pretty great. I'm bordering on excellent, honestly. So I know exactly when you're lying to yourself, and I'm just going to call you out on it. I don't have time to sell you a dream. Home ownership is no longer a dream. It's like owning a car. You got to get one. You're not going to go anywhere without it. Okay. So it's what it is. You either want to pay your mortgage, you want to pay somebody else's. Which one do you want to do? Okay. You need to know the answer to those questions. So when I say, hey, how many bedrooms and bathrooms would you like? And you say maybe, or what, I'm like, no, maybe's not going to cut it. I need to know, can you survive on 3 bedrooms or do you need 3 bedrooms and a bonus room? Because that's going to be a different conversation. Maybe doesn't cut it. I need you to tell me really and truly what you need. And don't give me this, well, my lender said I might qualify for this, but if I did this, then I might qualify for that. Okay, then let me know when you're serious. Well, I am serious. No, you're fishing. You are calling me with a maybe. When you're ready, I'm here for you. But I have 35 other buyers who are ready, willing, and able, and they are ready to go. So they need my time and attention today. When you can answer these questions and you know the answers that you need, we can then work on your wants. But they need to be sold the dream. So 100 real estate agents out there today will tell you that I am crass, that I don't know how to connect to my clients, that my clients, they leave and they hire other realtors because they just don't like the way that I do it. That's fine. I sell 100 houses a year. You don't have to like the way that I do it. But when push comes to shove and you've got termite damage and you need a seller to replace a subfloor, and that same agent that took that buyer calls me and tries to negotiate with me, they lose every single time. Because at the end of the day, I'm not here to be your best friend. I'm not here to sell you a dream. I am here to protect you from any issues that could arise and negotiate the absolute highest price if you're my seller and the best price if you're my buyer. And that is a skill and a career that took years to master. So if you want a friend, we can be friends after the fact. But if you want impeccable service and ability, I'm your gal. Otherwise, I don't have time for this conversation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I love when I see people's online dating profile and it says, I'm looking for a serious relationship. I always know that's such a red flag. Obviously, this is a while ago, right? Long before I got married. But every time I would see that and they would go, what are you looking for? I'm like, I don't know because I haven't met you yet. I'm dating and I'm open to the possibility. But anyone who's looking, they just want that next one. And that's such a red flag is because they'll jump at anyone, right?
Right.
It's the same time, the person who compliments everyone, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It's the person who compliments rarely that it has actual value. Like the guy who says to every woman, you're beautiful. Well, then it doesn't mean anything because you say it to everyone. It's a generic statement and there's no uniqueness to it. And it's the same way as that, like when someone talks to me and they're like, how do I know you're a good writer? I'm like, I don't know. I don't have that conversation anymore. I just don't. I said, look, you came to me through a referral. I only do referrals. You can't find me through my website. I don't even mention it. you already know someone who told you I was great, we wouldn't be on the phone together. Like, it just is what it is. And that's what they're looking for. People want, it's like, you want to hire the best, or do you want someone, sometimes people are like, hey, do you think we're going to work well together? I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter. My job is to write an amazing book, and I'm going to.
I think that people don't understand how to accept rejection, even when it's not rejection, right? It's like, you called me, you want me to serve you in some capacity, and now you are making me jump through hoops. You called me. You were obviously referred to me. Like, what extra? I'm just going to reject this now. I'm just rejecting you. And then people are like, whoa, 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 don't reject me. And they don't realize that's what they've done just by picking up the phone in general with that kind of conversation. I'm like, I don't have time to play this game all day. I'm an expert. Okay. I know that we need to get to know each other a little bit, and that's fine. But I'm going to date you for the next 30 to 60 days. I'm going to help you negotiate this deal. It's going to be amazing. And at the end of that, we're going to break up, and we're going to get a little bit of rejection and some sadness. And that's how it's going to go. So I'm going to prepare you for that up front. Let's go do this. So you don't, again, I'm going to reference it. You don't ask your doctor to be your best friend. You don't question your attorney. You just assume they know what they're doing. It's just, you need to hire an expert and know what they're doing.
Yeah. I love when people ask me for things outside my area of expertise. I'm like, look, I'm good at one thing. I'm really, really good at it. And it's when you move people outside their area of expertise. I'm like, yeah, I'll help. You want me to design your cover? Great. I'll do it. It's not going to be that good. Because compared to my writing, my cover design is not as good. I can do it. Obviously, I'll just hire someone else. I know how to hire a great designer, but I would never design it myself.
Right.
But there's the people, yeah, they want to be your friend, or they're asking the wrong questions. And I sometimes think about this when someone's like, well, am I qualified to help? This is something coaches or people who are teaching often ask. And people always come to me that when someone says to me, I think my story's boring, I always know they're going to tell me the craziest story. I remember one guy said, I don't think I'm interesting. I was a spy in Cambodia during the Vietnam War illegally. And then I was a spy against Russia.
That not be story?
That was the boring part. Then he goes, and I was a spy in Moscow, and my wife was undercover in the Moscow Ballet. Is that interesting? And I said, I feel like you don't know what the word interesting means. Whenever someone thinks the more boring they think they are, I know they're about to say something so crazy, right? One of my friends, when I was younger, I met him for a friend of a friend. I was like, what do you do? He's like, oh, I'm an underwater demolitions instructor. And I was like, wait a minute, this guy's a Navy SEAL instructor. It took me like an hour to figure it out, because he described it as, oh, I do underwater construction. And I was like, wait a minute, because the more crazy it is, right, the more casual you are about it, because it's not that interesting, because you don't have to make it interesting if you do something amazing. But there's this,
well,
sometimes,
the reason you don't have to make it interesting is because you don't want to share it with everybody else, because everybody else just wants part of it. And that's an issue. As you become more and more, or better and better and better, or more accomplished, you start to surround yourself with other more accomplished people. And so if you keep sharing that story, all the people that haven't accomplished anything just want to take that from you. And it's not that they're doing it in a mean way or an inappropriate way. It's like, you know what? It's just not that interesting. I just don't want to share that story. And then one day you do call a book person and you're like, I'm ready to share my story. But it could not be that interesting because you spent so long downplaying it, so you didn't have to share it.
Yeah, it's people. My favorite is when you hire an expert and they don't want to do their expertise. It's like, sometimes people hire me and they go, we are not allowed to do any research. I'm like, wait, what?
On what? Them?
No, to like back up their stories or foundational, all of that stuff. I'm like, no, that's how you make a book great. Like, my job is I do tons of research. One of my best clients, I found a picture of his father he'd never seen. It's very exciting for me. I was like, that's the kind of stuff that was one of my favorite adventures. I was like, I found this picture of your dad. He goes, I've never seen that. And I was like, yes. Right. So that's great with me.
Same thing with real estate. And that's, again, that requires an expert. Everything that you're doing requires somebody that knows how to do it. And with real estate, when you come up to me and you're like, hey, I want to see 5 houses, the research time that I put in on every single house is a good hour per home. So when you tell me that you want to go see these and you're ready to make an offer, you're ready to seriously go look at houses, I do the research. And it takes so much time. Deeds are like 12 pages long per house, on top of HOA restrictions, previous ownership, extra photos, any stories that came along with the house, all the stuff. It takes research and time. When I come with you to show you a house and I present you this information, you didn't just find me on Google with my 5-star reviews and hire me. You found the expert. And I do expect to be treated as such and paid for my time.
Yeah, I feel like if you get one of those realtors that will just jumping at the chance, they'll never tell you it's a murder house. It's like you need an expert. It's the worst. And I especially want to know if it was never solved. Like, that's very important to me. They're still out there and they know how to get in this house. What we're talking about here, and I think it's important for people who are listening, is that we're talking about positioning versus prospecting. And prospecting is where we all start, where you're chasing clients and you'll close any deal. And positioning is where you're like, you switch from like calling the client to the client calls you and you go, well, let me decide if I want to work with you. And that's a scary switch. I understand that. But just to give a name for it so people know, because it is this thing look, my first job, I wrote a book for $800. They did $1 million in profit from that book. Should have asked for more, learned my lesson. But guess what? I pay my rent that month. And that's part of it, is that when you're starting early on, you're going to eat some doo-doo. I always say, into every life, a little doo-doo must roll down the mountain. And when you're starting out, you got to eat it, and you got to eat some crow, because that's how you start.
That's actually one of the titles to one of the chapters in my book. Crow pie tastes good. It's the title of one of the chapters.
Yeah, because guess what? When my son was in the hospital and needed emergency surgery, I took a job, right? Like, you'll do extra stuff when you need to bring in the money. You'll do whatever it takes. I'll do whatever it takes for my kids. That's part of being the dad and being the revenue generator in the family, that sometimes people forget when they're like, oh, I'm dabbling. I hate when people call it a side hustle. It's like, yeah, well, that means you're not serious.
It means you're taking focus away from what could possibly be making you money and giving it to something that is a maybe, which means you weren't serious about.
You got to go, whatever you're going to do, you got to be serious about it. And I like how serious you are about real estate. That's why I wanted to talk to you. I'm not really a real estate guy. Where I live, it's the opposite. There's no rule of law. I live in a third world country. I live in Southeast Asia. Where there's no rule of law.
A non-contract. Basically, the real estate companies I can walk across a sign to a house and say, hey, I'm a better realtor, hire me. And the person could give me a verbal yes. I could remove another agent's sign and put my sign in the yard, and I would have that listing for as long as until the next agent tried to steal it.
It's not even that. It's that if the police come and go, we want your house,
they can take it.
They just take it. Or I had someone, the fire department came around and said, I'm going to be ashamed this place burned down. Like, when the fire department's doing shakedown, it's serious. And people always like, oh, why don't you buy here? I'm like, oh, first of all, there's no rule of law. So it's when you go to court, whoever has more money wins. Whoever bribes the judge bigger. So that our last house, we had a beautiful house, was destroyed in a typhoon. We left. We were able to leave the next day. And our house now, same thing. It's that we live in an amazing house that people consider high risk because there's like a bunch of weird stuff with the police. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I can kick that any house. They don't care. If they choose you, right? And so it changes the strategy. But I wanted to talk to you because you are passionate and because you are abrasive, which is what I like. I like people that say the truth, because a lot of people, right, they make it sound like, this is what I hate about real estate, that everyone makes it sound really easy and make it sound like a dream, because it's always come down to the Holiday Inn by the air, teach you real estate. And it's not.
A dream when you figure it out. I will tell you, and I say this every day, and this is the truth. It's when you figure out how this industry works and you understand how to be the best version of your industry for your clients on behalf of your clients, it is a dream. There is nowhere else I have ever seen outside of stock markets or tech or some big investment boom that if used properly, the investment in real estate will get you anything you've ever dreamed of. There is no faster way to make money than real estate. And that doesn't mean you have to be a real estate agent, but it does mean you need to understand real estate. I have never in my life experienced such financial growth about the 6-year mark in my career where I truly understood how to invest in real estate, take advantage of real estate, borrow against real estate, leverage real estate. And those things came with 6 years of helping other people attain real estate. So I figured it out after the fact. But if you come from a wealthy family already, or a family that understood real estate as you were growing up, real estate will get you the dream. It is a dream. When it becomes exactly everything, that the work that you put into it, then you get exactly what you put in out. But it takes years of your life to get that part of it.
So you can't just learn it in one weekend by the airport?
Nope. Nor 3 weeks to get a license. National Association of Realtors lying to you. Like, it takes years.
I love it. This has been really great. Thank you so much for giving me so much of your time. Where could people find out more about you online, see what you're doing, and if they're in the Knoxville area, maybe see if they're good enough to be your client?
Yeah, so Linktree, which has all of our links on it. And so I've got my Web3 on there as well. So Linktree / the Julia Hurley, TikTok, the Julia Hurley, Instagram, the Julia Hurley. So basically everywhere. And my website for real estate is just Homes Group justhomesgroup.com, as in we just sell homes. So just homes with an S, justhomesgroup.com.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. I'll put that in the show notes. And again, guys, make sure you follow her on TikTok because she's crushing it. That's at the Julia Hurley. And thank you so much for being here. This has been an amazing episode.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Serve Master podcast. Get a free copy of my bestseller, Fire Your Boss, right now on Amazon. Go to servermaster.com/getfire or just search Fire Your Boss on Amazon.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Serve No Master podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode. We'll be back next week with more tips and tactics on how to escape the rat race. Please take a moment to leave a review at servenomaster.com/iTunes. It helps the show grow, and more listeners means more content for you. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.